Great Miami real estate deals rarely make it to Zillow. Call me if you're looking for access to off market homes.
It doesn't matter your race, nationality, religion, Republican, Democrat, almost any country you live in, there's something that's always going to be involved. And what is that? Money. Money is going to be involved in your life. And do I think money is the meaning of life? No. And everyone has their own, as far as meaning and ethics, that's your own call. But it's definitely going to be a tool that's going to be involved. And so understanding that tool or having somebody to operate that tool for you is important. Now, if you look back at some of the people that you know or some of the wealthier people, a lot of it, yes, obviously their job paid them money, but a lot of it is through capital building. So they owned a stock in, let's say, the company that they're working on, and the company went up in value, or their investments did well. They bought a real estate investment. They spent money in the market. So a lot of people, you'll get bombarded with the income side. Okay, you need to get this job, keep moving up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But not so much time is spent on, okay, once you have the money, what do you do? What is your plan? And there's many components to this. And this is part of the reason why I started my firm, Harlig Financials, is that I wanted to have a holistic financial planning firm where we could attack most of these components or almost all of these components and think holistically, because if you're, let's say it's life insurance, right? If you're working on life insurance, it can have an impact as far as your other investments, etc. So as far as building wealth and income, there is a 3 steps that could be a guide. Again, all this stuff is for educational purposes only. This is not investment advice, disclosure. But there's a 3-step framework that you could look at as far as, okay, you have to earn income. So whatever your job is, maybe you have another side hustle to make money, right? Somehow generate income. Maybe you move up, you get more money. Then the second part, which a lot of people don't do, is spend less than you earn, right? You could be making very good money, but if you are spending more than you earn, you are going in the negative category. That means you're spending more. And what usually happens when you spend more than you earn? You usually have to take out a loan. Now, what does that mean? That means that as time progresses, the loan increases, it compounds. So you're behind the 8 ball versus ahead of the 8 ball. And the final thing, after you spend less than you earn, is you invest that money to take advantage of something called compound interest, which Albert Einstein, who discovered many great things, termed that category the 8th wonder of the world. So let me walk you through an example of the power of compound interest and the power of investing. You have 2 people. You have Sarah and you have James. Sarah started investing at 25 years old for 10 years, 25 till the end of 34. James, on the other hand, he waits. He's partying, whatever he's doing. He's chilling, he's buying all these things. So he starts at 35, 10 years later. And then he goes until 65. So he's investing for 3 times the amount of time. He puts in 3 times the amount of money. Now let's assume that the money grows. Obviously, these are assumptions, right? Markets go up, markets go down. But let's assume money grows at an 8% compound interest, compounded annually. At age 65 for both of them, right? Let's assume they're the same age. Who will have more money? What do you think? Stop, pause. What do you think? James spent 3 times the amount of time, 3 times the amount of capital. Well, it's actually Sarah by a lot. 567,000 about approximately versus 400,000 for James. So $167,000 more. And you would think, how is that possible? Well, that's the 8th wonder of the world that Albert Einstein coined, compound interest. She had more years for her money to compound. So again, let's go back to the 3-step framework, right? So earn income, spend less than you earn, right? Because also lifestyle creep is a thing, right? You get a raise, you get a promotion. Okay, now I need to get a nicer apartment. I need to get a nicer car. So you have to fall out of that trap. And then make sure to invest that money. And when you do invest that money, there are certain vehicles that are advantageous. So for instance, if you're at a big corporation, or it could be a regular corporation, they do offer some investment advantage accounts sometimes. So for instance, 401k, right? A lot of times your employer matches your 401k. So if you give up 3% of your paycheck for a 401k, your employer may double that, right? So let's say you put $3,000 a year, your employer might give you another $3,000. So that's 100% return just from your employer. And then your money could grow, and you don't pay taxes on the money that you contribute to your 401k. Or something called an ESPP. You may not have heard of it. It's called Employee Stock Purchase Plan. Some corporations have it, publicly traded, but it allows you to buy your company stock at a discount. Now, obviously, you have to understand whether you think your company stock is going to go up, but automatically, you have baked in a discount when you buy that stock. Or sometimes they have an HSA account which is a health savings account where you could contribute money to your health, and you don't pay any taxes from contributing the money, from the investment gain, and then from spending money if you spend it on qualified medical expenses. So just pay attention when you see those things. It could sound boring. It could sound, oh, I don't need to, but it's something you want to pay attention to, because also we just discussed compound interest. So all these things, they compound over time. So a small decision today can compound over time. Now, something where I was passionate about for Harlig Financials when I started my firm is the research that I could do for financial investments, right? So let's say it's a bond, let's say it's commodities, all these things. There's a risk-reward trade-off. There's a risk, uncertainty, all these things. But the equation changes over time, right? Interest rates change over time. Let's say we're talking about treasuries, right? As the U.S. increases the debt load, it becomes inherently more risky. So how does that factor into the investment strategy? And then let's say markets, right? The U.S. market, as it becomes more expensive, is it still worth the investment, right? So all these things I get to do and to provide for my client portfolios. And there, we don't only we look at the client as an individual as far as what is their risk tolerance, what is their time horizon, what is their liquidity needs, what is their preferences, and being able to do that and not having, a lot of times they'll sell you on investing their money, but then it goes into a back office. There's not a lot of communication. All my interactions, I'm making the investment decisions and I'm dealing directly with the clients. And then I could pay attention to the markets and see, okay, is this risk reward profile still relevant to my client's portfolio? Additionally, I remember before I was decided to start this, I was actually interviewing with another wealth management firm, and I was thinking about it, and I realized I didn't want to go there. Was several reasons, but one of them was, so for instance, as an agent, right? So this is in a separate capacity for life insurance. I have to sell their product, but let's say there's a better deal or a better fit for a client with a different company. I can't do that. I have to push that product. Or on the investment side, I have to give it to the back office for them to do. Maybe I could make a call and try to convince them of certain investments, but I don't have the same freedom to try to give the best advice that I could to the client. I don't have to push a specific product. So I just mentioned life insurance, so you may have heard of it, you may not have heard it, but essentially, and for some people it's not relevant, right? But what does that mean? Basically, it allows you, in the case of death, right? Let's say you have a family, let's say you have kids, right? And you're the primary breadwinner. If you pass away, God forbid, for whatever reason it is, this life insurance will give a payout to you, whoever the beneficiary is, whether it's your wife, your kids, etc. And what you do is you pay a monthly premium to the insurance company to, in the case of a premature death, or unless you have permanent insurance, it could last a lifetime, then they will pay out a premium, a payout to you or your family, whoever the beneficiary is. So a lot of times when people get married or they have kids, that's something that garners interest to them. Obviously, there's a lot of different life insurance policies It's a different fit for everybody. Not everyone's a fit for life insurance in general. Not everyone can get underwritten. So it's important to understand your specific profile and see what makes sense for you, and also your broader financial picture. As far as, for instance, if you're in a very low underwriter class because you have a lot of health issues and you already have a lot of money built up that could go to your kids anyways, it's a different question. Does it make sense to still get life insurance? I remember I was dealing with a prospect, and we had the conversation. It didn't make sense for them to get life insurance. Other people, they need to get it. So that's also an interesting play. And then something that also to pay attention to is, does your family have a will, a trust, right? So do your parents have that? What is a will, right? It sounds like a big topic. A will is just instructions in the case of death, right? Let's say, God forbid, your mother dies, your father dies. Where does the money go? Instead of the state deciding, the will tells instructions on where it goes. And what is it? And so maybe also if you have a family of kids, you also want that. And then what about a trust? Well, a trust allows you to distribute the assets, right? So a will doesn't protect you from going to court. You still have to go to court in a case of the death, and the court decides based on the will where the things go. The trust allows you to avoid the court and also make more criteria as far as like, hey, I want to make sure my kid graduates college until he gets the money. So that's a nice thing about the will. Additionally, I wanted to discuss a few tax advantage accounts that you could take advantage of, and that is the Roth IRA. I actually just had a discussion about that last night. So with a prospect. So a Roth, I like the Roth IRA a lot because the Roth IRA allows you to take after-tax earnings, invest the money, and all the gains on your investments, you're not paying any taxes on it. So if, let's say, you invest whatever the limit is, there is certain criteria, right? Your income can't go above a certain level, but in order to be eligible for that year. But the good thing is you could take that money and all the gains. So let's say over a few years you have, let's say, $20,000 that you contributed to your Roth. That money, all the growth on that money is not taxed. Generally speaking, if you gain money in the stock market, real estate, you have to pay taxes on the gains. There you don't. Obviously, you have to wait until you're 59 and a half to withdraw it, but that's a nice perk. And additionally, the thing why I like it is because sometimes you realize, hey, I need some of my money back now. I'm starting a business. I have a family thing. I need to get a house. The Roth IRA allows you, without any penalty, to take out your initial contribution. So let's say you contributed $6,000 every year for the last few years, right? So that's $18,000. You could take out that initial contribution without any penalty. The gains you can't take out without penalty unless there's certain exceptions. But that's a nice perk that I really like about the Roth IRA. Now, if you don't qualify for the Roth, you may qualify for the traditional IRA. Now, the difference between the traditional IRA is that it's pre-tax, so you don't pay tax on the initial contributions, but you pay taxes afterwards when you withdraw the money in retirement. So it's a little bit of a different mechanisms, but they're both tax advantage retirement accounts that you could take advantage of. So I hope any of this stuff was useful as far as whether it's just knowing, being aware, reaching out to the right people to ask questions, whether you're doing it yourself, and understanding that these things compound over time. And the younger you are, as I said the example with Sally and James, the more powerful it is. So when you're in your 20s, it's a lot more powerful than in your 40s. And then additionally, another aspect that is more advantageous when you're younger is that generally you have less expenses, right? As you get older, if let's say you have a family, you have more health things, it's easier to spend less when you're younger. You can have a roommate. So that's why, especially if you're younger, it's good to take advantage. But also as you're older, you have more assets. So it's relevant to anybody basically anyone in this world, because they're going to have to deal with money, whatever they do. So hope that was value to you, and thank you for your time.